Call this meeting in order. If you can join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, can we have a roll call, please?
Blair. Here. Broughton.
Here.
De Palma.
Here.
Marshall.
Here.
Sherman. Here. Unruh.
Here.
Rumble.
Here. All right, we need a motion to approve our agenda.
I'll make a motion.
I have a question about the agenda. We've advertised for a truth and taxation hearing in the newspaper. Shouldn't we add the,
No, you don't have to by statute unless you're raising the millage over the allowable route
I know,
amount. So
but we
we're not
advertised in the
required.
paper that we're having a hearing tonight.
But you don't have to under statute.
I understand that. I was just saying, it's been advertised in the paper, so there might be people here.
Well, Bill said we
For
just
a
put that in
hearing.
there to put the rates in there, so.
Right, but
Yeah.
it did say we were having a hearing.
If you think
Didn't
we
have
need
to
to, we
have-
can, but it's not required under
Well, if anyone
statute.
wants to speak, they can, that's fine, right?
They can speak during public comment,
Yeah.
sure. But
I'm confused on what's going on.
in the newspaper, it said we are having a truth and taxation public hearing tonight.
Because the millage rates are in the board packet,
In the
Right.
newspaper.
but
So-
a truth and tax, it's not required by statute.
Okay. I didn't even know there was anything in the paper, so that's why I was confused.
Yeah, so I was just saying, there might be people here that are coming for the hearing. So I guess if we just let everyone know that's here, that they're welcome to speak regarding truth and taxation during public comment.
Okay. I'll second the motion.
Who made the motion?
Rosalind,
Okay.
all those in favor of approving the agenda, say
So you said by statute, we don't need it?
correct. It's right
Okay.
here. Unless we're increasing it over the maximum allowable amount, which we're not doing.
Okay, yep.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. That brings us into our presentations. Scott is up first from Row Engineering with our sewer plan. Preliminary study, should say.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Hopefully that works.
Yeah, my computer, just give me a sec here, please. Technology is great when it works.
Did you look at that report? It's huge.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah,
Scott, the other Scott knows how to make that work most times.
going back to our old steps here.
Exactly. Yeah, just go ahead and run that.
Running that.
Yeah, it should come up and then we should be able to do this.
All right, thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. As Jason mentioned, my name is Scott Hemmeyer. I'm a project manager and an engineer with Rowe Professional Services Company. And here tonight, we just completed a sewer study to connect the township to, potentially connect the township to the potential Kersley Creek interceptor sewer. So tonight, I'm here to go over the study and then the highlights and answer any questions. Before we dive into the study, just to give everybody some project background. So ultimately, the wastewater is going to go to Genesee County Drain Commissioner's Office, Division of Water and Waste Services, their Anthony McGrone treatment plant. So that's up here in Montrose, right there where the star is. So background, in 2020, they regularly update their master plan for the plant. What you see here is a service area for the plant. As you can see, it's quite large. There's 25 cities and townships in Genesee County, some Lapeer County, Saginaw County, Shiawassee County. And what we're here to talk about today is it's actually projected to go across the borderline into northern Oakland County. So the service areas identified in the plan area, and also in the plan area in their short-term 5-year plan, they plan on extending what's called the Kersley Creek Interceptor. And I'll show you that in a minute. They're extending, can extend that down to Oakland County.
Okay.
So where that's at, we actually completed the study to do that in 2021, and then the design engineering started earlier this year, and it's ongoing. And if all goes to plan, we'll be building it starting in late fall or winter of 2024. So this project that I'm talking about, the Genesee County project, so we'll start going downstream to upstream. So north is up. Here's the township line. This is Dixie Highway right here. McClellan Road right here. Shannon Fasteners is right on the corner here. So there'll be a meter installed where it changes jurisdiction. There's a, whoops, excuse me. Going the wrong way here. There's a major pumping station where this red circle is. And then 6 miles of force main headed north on Vassar Road, jogs over to Irish Road on Perry Road, and then continues north on Irish where the turns green is where it turns to gravity sewer. So that's all by gravity flow. And then just south of Lapeer Road, it cuts country and then goes the other side of 69 and ties to the existing Kersley Creek Interceptor. This isn't working really good. There, much better. So from that point, then the Oakland County Water Resources Commission takes over. So of course they can't call it Kersley Creek Interceptor because you're changing districts. You got to change the name like they do with roads. So we're calling it the Northwest Oakland County Interceptor. So where that's at, the study was completed in 2021. There's 2 regions. So here's where that meter was, and this is where we were just looking at the Genesee County portion. So this region 1 comes down Dixie Highway. The brown is all gravity sewer. We're going to get to the other side, projected to get to the other side of 75. And then region 2, which you care about, is on 15. Comes through Ortonville and then into the township and down past the lakes here in Bald Eagle Lake. And then we'd have 3 pump stations and force main that would connect the 2 districts. So last we talked with the Water Resource Commission. They were looking at getting the project designed and what we call shovel ready in 2023 and 2024, but they're still looking for funding for the project. The price tag came in pretty high, so they're thinking they won't break ground for another 5 to 7 years. So got a little time to plan before sewer will be available.
That's getting it down, but from that first part to where it gets to there,
Right.
that will be completed when?
This will start in 2024.
Okay, so that's happening no matter what.
Yes.
And then it's 5 to 7 years out would be, or
That's
more.
their best guess right now.
Right,
yeah.
5 to 7 years out, depending on funding would be the rest. But it's getting to that point no matter what.
Yes, correct. Yep.
Okay.
That's what
Yep.
we've already done.
Grand Blanc Township has a large development coming in here, and this is going to help facilitate that. So this is definitely coming and in the works.
But if that's the case, you're saying 5 to 7 years to begin shovel-ready, then it has to come down Dixie and then across Grange Hall before it even gets to us. What's the time frame on that?
This is an $80 million project. It could be you know, a couple years, even if they hit it with multi-phase construction, it'd be a
Okay.
couple years.
It's just setting a level set, because some people think, hey,
Right.
sewers in a couple of years, and that's
Yeah,
not the
no,
case.
No,
Yeah.
this is a big project.
Yeah.
So the first that you're talking about, the 5 to 7 years, that's just going down Dixie Highway. And then it'd be more years to come across and get to us.
That would all depend on, you know, who all wants to get in.
Okay.
If Holly wanted to get in, Brant, you know, if you guys wanted to get in, Holly wouldn't want to get in, we could phase this differently to get it over to here. There's just a lot of things up in the air right now, so.
Well, it's got to go through Groveland too there. So it's Groveland that's got to get in.
Yeah, to get to you guys, the bare minimum, we have to come down and then put in this
Get
force
through
main
Groveland,
pumps and then
right.
come across, yep, and come down. Yep. So that's the interceptor project. So study area and the existing facilities in the township now. So I think as everybody knows, most everybody's on a septic system. Pretty much everybody in the study area was, except for the Brandon School campus and the Long Lake development. They have their own mini treatment facilities. And what this map is over here, what we're looking at, so the United States Department of Agriculture, they have a tool, it's like a planning tool. It's fairly accurate, but that's the soils maps for the soils that are in the area. So according to the maps, you've got a lot of muck, you got a lot of loams. There is some sand, but usually these aren't the greatest materials for installing septic fields, which is why you have a lot of engineered fields around here. This is another tool from the USDA website. This is the depth of water, the groundwater. So yellow, orange, and red are almost guaranteed to be some kind of engineered field. So that's a good of the third of the study area. And then this last tool they have kind of tells the whole picture. So this is their septic tank absorption field rating. So as you can see, you know, the entire area is mostly very limited, and then there's a couple areas that are somewhat limited, but not, according to these maps, not a good area for septic fields. And I think you guys have probably seen that with engineered fields that go in. Okay, so study. First thing we do is we identify a service area. So north is up on this map. This green line here is the interceptor. I'm pointing to the school campus there. Green interceptor goes all the way down here. The study area solely in the township is this green line. So we're capturing all this area here. This yellow area would be parcels in the township that would kind of be joint using the sewer on Granger Road, which isn't uncommon, but you need some kind of service agreement ultimately with that.
That's the village.
Oh, excuse
Right.
me, Village of Ortonville.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yep.
it's late. It's been a long day.
Yeah, that splits the village and the township.
Yep, sorry, my bad. And then these pink areas here could directly connect to the interceptor, so they wouldn't need any kind of separate collection system. They just tie right in. So that's the overall, and then we took that and we split that into 12 other sub-districts. And there are a couple reasons we do that. That allows us to do design calcs, and each one of these districts could be a standalone collection system, like you could build them one at a time. So that's why we split it up that way. And then some statistics about the service area. We've got 1,165 parcels, 1,041 are residential, 124 non-residential, and the acreage is just under 988 acres. So there's two types of collection systems we considered. So the collector sewers are the ones that pick up it's like a hierarchy. The collectors are the ones that pick up the flow from your houses and take it to an interceptor, basically. So gravity sanitary sewers are the traditional way to go. They operate primarily by gravity. They're usually 8 to 12 inch diameter pipes. The sweet spot for depth is 9 to 10 feet, but you can run them as shallow as 4 feet deep. You can get over 30 feet deep, but they start really being tough to construct once you start hitting that 30-foot range. So the benefits of the gravity system is they're simple. They're easy to maintain. They operate by gravity. Some of them have pump stations here and there. So those are the only energy consumption you have is where you need to lift the flow back up. The limitations and challenges is they're limited by depth and terrain. So if you got a lot of up and down terrain, they get deep on you really fast, and then you start putting in a lot of lift stations. They have a larger installation footprint compared to low pressure systems, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Usually if you're not using a trench box or something, you need one-on-one. So if you're 10 feet deep, 20 foot wide at the top of the trench, you're going to tear up. And as I mentioned, you need pumps and lift stations wherever you gotta pick up the flow and resume gravity. And then the other system we looked at is a low pressure collection system. And what that is you have a little grinder pump for houses. They're like a little 2 horsepower pump at each house. So each house would have its own pump. And then those pump out to a low pressure force main, and those are small diameter too. For this study, we had sizes from 1.5 inches to 8 inches. And then they're shallow, they're 5 foot deep. And they're nice because they can follow the lay of the land. They can go up and down because they're under pressure. And then the installation, since they're so shallow and such small diameter pipe, they don't require a big footprint to get them in. The limitations and challenges is you got to have the pumps. You know, those are mechanical, so they require replacement and maintenance. And then the pumping requires a little bit of energy consumption, but it's not terrible. It's not any worse than a well. So before we go into the system layout, the next thing we have to do in the study is calculate the flows. In wastewater, you got to get familiar with this term, residential equivalency unit, REU. So if you're talking to anybody in wastewater, they're going to be talking in those units. And how you can think about that is that's like the average day flow that comes from a house. And that's the unit people use for billing, and things like that. So in REU, how that's calculated, it's 100 gallons per capita. You figure on average 3.15 people per house. So it's an average flow of wastewater flow, 315 gallons per day. So then we take that and we hit it with a peaking factor, because that's average day flow. So in the mornings, when you're getting up, taking a shower, getting ready, you use a lot more water, and same thing when you're getting home, cooking dinner at night. So it's right around 4 is what it ends up being, so times 4, and then we use that flow to size the system. So for parcels that aren't residential, so residential is easy. 1 parcel equals 1 REU. Pretty simple and straightforward. For commercial properties and other uses in residential, the Water Resources Commission has a schedule of unit factors that we use. So like just shooting a number, a warehouse is X amount of REUs per so many square feet, or as a restaurant is so many REUs per chair. So when we calculate existing flows, it's pretty simple. We use the existing uses. When we're calculating future flows, if it's already got a house on it, we stuck with that use. If it was a vacant parcel, which there wasn't a ton of these, we used the future land use plan and those uses factors to determine how many REUs is going to come from the site. And then there's some assumptions stated there. We use some assumptions, 20% unusable land and things like that to figure it out. So here's a breakdown of what we ended up with for existing and future RUs for each of the 12 districts. Total existing was just under 950, and then future is just over 1,200. So you're only going to see about a 25% growth, which is good. It makes the sizing the system easier. And then most of those growths were in the commercial districts where there's vacant parcels where you might have a big user come in the commercial areas. But all the residential areas, there's very little growth. So when we vetted these different systems, we took into account the existing terrain, the space constraints. A lot of the lots along the lake lots are really tight and packed in there, so gravity sewers just aren't going to fly. They're just going to be too disruptive, and it'd be very challenging, if not impossible, to get into some of those areas. And then also the roads go up and down, so a lot of instances, low pressure collection systems made sense. Some instances gravity did. For instance, one, we ended up with gravity. You can see along here, this District 2 over here, we ended up with low pressure, 3, low pressure, and then 4, the campground worked really well with gravity. And then so on and so forth. You can see, when you go through the study, we've got a schematic system layout for all those districts. I wasn't planning on going over that tonight. I think everybody's looking a little sleepy, all right? Ready? So we've got our system layout. This is probably what everybody wants to see. Be realistic, the numbers are expensive. So here's our cost breakdown by district. We're looking at a total construction cost of about $42 million. It's a big number. And when you break that down by REU, so cost per house, you could think of it that way, it ends up being about $35,000 if you were to spread the money over the entire district, which is pretty high. So where do we go from here? This because the money's high doesn't mean it can't happen if you want it to happen. So the thing they got going for you is the state really prefers gravity collection systems over septic. One of the benefits of them is we're taking all the flow and we're taking it all the way to the plant, and there's one point discharge to the Flint River, and it gets monitored. With septics, you got 1,000 little mini treatment areas that are, not really regulated up to the homeowner to take care of. And they're not, from Eagle's standpoint, from the state standpoint, they're not preferred. So Eagle has a state revolving fund. They offer low interest loans, and I think you can finance for 25 years at least. It might be more. I'm sorry. Don't hold me to that. And then in some instances, if they want to help the project out and you meet qualifiers, you can get principal forgiveness, so they'll forget all or part of the loan. And then the United States Department of Agriculture has a similar program, but it's for a smaller population. I think it'd be less than 10,000 if I remember correctly. And that's another potential way to get it. Then you can get earmark funds. You can work with a financial consultant to kind of help you figure out how to make this happen if you wanted it to. And then WRC is also a great resource to help figure out how to get some funds to make this happen if you'd like it to. I guess with that, that's the end I had for the PowerPoint. I'll take any questions.
Do you see any considerable amount of funding coming our way in the next 5 to 7 years?
There's a boatload of funding right now. We unfortunately wish it would have been ready now. It's just hard to say what the future's going to hold. It's difficult.
And we're not ready to
No,
apply for any of
not
that.
till-
no,
Because that's
no,
all
not
wanted to.
anywhere. But at least now you have the numbers,
planning.
and you can start getting a plan of attack together if you'd like to.
But that's the numbers today.
Yes.
What are the numbers 7 years from now,
No idea.
right?
Right.
No idea.
Yeah.
Could have deflation,
Okay.
could keep having inflation.
Yeah.
I hope deflation, because prices are up 30-40% from pre-COVID. It's insane how expensive things are getting, as everybody knows.
Thank you, Scott.
Yep.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to our smart presentation. Bonnie?
Hold on. Oh, I always like to say this on camera. I need my dongle.
Oh,
Bonnie's gonna need that or not.
Thank you.
So we should start a pop can drive.
This is cool.
It's a goodie bag.
Oh.
Smart.
Thank you.
It's like going to some high price kind of thing, but I give up. Bags.
The police is smart.
Oh,
Do you need the projector at all, Bonnie, or are you just gonna?
You know what? I mean, you guys have the contracts in front of you.
Okay.
I'm assuming I'm from Macomb County, I'm just covering, so I'll tell you that up front. It's my understanding that you guys just pass along your money to NODA,
No,
or, no?
No.
no.
We do it in-house.
We use our
Oh,
own.
okay. So, I mean, I'm happy to load up the presentation, or if you just have questions, I'm happy to answer those also.
Well, since you're from Macomb, then you don't have anything to do with the taxes that are collected for the Regional Transit Authority in
Correct.
Oakland County.
Well, I can ask a question a different way then. How are things going to be different this year than they were last year?
They're rolling out the plan this week. So if you look on Twitter, any of our social media, you will see the new plan for Oakland County and how it's going to change.
I guess I was actually asking more specifically about how it was going to affect Brandon Township.
That, unfortunately, I cannot answer the question to.
When they roll the plan out, will they be sending us anything?
Yes,
They'll be sending the plan to us?
yes.
Okay.
Actually, you should have gotten it, I thought, today.
We didn't see anything.
No? Okay. Well,
I didn't
then
receive anything
you'll
today.
get it tomorrow.
Okay.
But no, it's all ready to roll. We have all the new routes. Everything is ready to,
Do you have that plan in your PowerPoint presentation
I
that
do
you
not.
could go over?
So we need to vote, but we don't have the plan. Is that what you're saying?
We're voting on the municipal credits that we get.
the credits you get are going to
That
be the
doesn't have anything to do
same
with the plan.
as what they are every year.
Yeah. These are just for us to get those credits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, the credits
trying
are
to
the
figure out, I was
same
like,
as
what-
they are basically every year.
Yep.
And then you guys do with them, do you have a bus that you
Yeah, we
guys
have
transfer?
several that
Okay,
use it through our senior center.
okay.
I wasn't sure because it just said smart contract here, so I thought what she was trying to show us was voting on the contract.
So we
But it's just
It's what's in the
It's just
packet.
the same numbers basically as you've
okay.
Just
had.
to
the
vote to
municipal
approve the
credits.
receiving the municipal credits.
Right,
Same thing we voted on last year.
Right, we
Right.
vote on every year, but
Yep.
since you guys were talking about it was changing, I was like, so shouldn't be voting yet? That's what I
When
was trying to
is
think of.
this contract due back to you, to Smart?
there's really no time frame.
So even if we decided not to vote on, well, if we decided not to vote on the contract, we could wait to get more information.
Right, but I don't believe the
doesn't
numbers are
affect-
gonna
Right, it doesn't.
change.
No.
Right.
I mean, I could come back with a different presentation. They're actually interviewing this week for someone to replace the Oakland County ombudsperson. So, I mean, we can come back after and give you a more explanatory presentation
All the changes.
with all the changes.
Okay.
But like I said, the numbers as they are not gonna change for right now.
Right, and that's for the credits that we've always been getting. I
Right.
think what
Right.
some of us were hoping to see, and it's obviously, it's okay that it's not happening tonight, was as a result of this millage that our taxpayers are
Right.
paying into, but up to this point, getting nothing in return, we were hoping to see is some of that money going to start coming back our way, I think is the goal.
And I think eventually you will. It's just right now, they're still working out the whole program and how it's gonna work.
We will be getting some reimbursements. We've already talked about that
Yeah.
and approved that grant. So we will be getting some money back this year. Oz and I are working on the invoice for that now, so.
So yeah, essentially tonight, all you're voting on is getting the
Receiving
money
the
for the
credits.
municipal credits and community credits. And then once Oakland County is all figured out, then we can come back and give another presentation.
Okay.
Once
Okay.
they have all the numbers and how it's going to go in the future.
Sounds
Which,
like a good idea.
Because I have a keen sense of observational skills, and looking at my bag here,
Yes.
it says, oh, the places Smart goes, and I see we're not here.
I was gonna say, those are old bags, I apologize. But, yeah, I think you'll see a lot more of our flex, expanding those routes. And, they're looking at, I guess, smaller vehicles, more of the transport, instead of the big
Buses
This is,
buses that,
that
yeah.
people don't ride.
right.
I was gonna say, in reality, people are looking to get to their job, to get to their doctor's appointment, to get to those things. Very few are looking for the big buses anymore. I mean, everything has changed post-COVID, so we're actually doing 2 studies right now to determine new routes and where we need to have, bus structures and, how to make it more convenient for people to get to work. Because between work and doctor's appointments, I mean, those are really the most 2 important things I think we do.
Okay. Does anybody else have questions?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you, Bonnie.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that brings us into our reports. We do have a treasury report. We have a general ledger report.
We will be later
Municipal
on.
later.
Yeah.
No.
Thank you.
All right, and then we have the recreation report. John, did you want to say anything on the report? You don't have to, it's up to you. Then you're good? He'll be up here later with his other items, so.
Yeah.
Let him
Tell us
break
how
it
it's
easy.
going.
All right, and then, oh, you want him to come up here?
No, not if you don't.
Yeah,
Well,
he
if
doesn't
he's
even-
coming up later, he can tell
Yeah,
us
he
later
is.
how
All right,
it's going.
and then we have the Edna Burton Senior Center report. Faye?
Let him watch somebody else first, yeah.
It's okay.
Okay.
I even had to type it out because I knew I'd forget something. So SMART is the company that we get our transportation vehicles through. Because of getting the vehicles through SMART, we are able to transport area seniors and disabled adults to their doctor's appointments, shopping trips, to the senior center for activities at the senior center, day trips for fun and for cultural enhancement. We are also able to pick up and deliver Focus, Hope, and commodities to area residents to help with their nutrition. We also use the buses to help deliver Meals on Wheels to homebound seniors. One of the items that NODA has said that in 2024, Brandon Township will not be receiving a reimbursement from the county. I have a call into Jim Ellison, who is the chief of the Older Adult Services of Oakland County, in regards to this matter. He was out of the office last week, but he said that he would definitely, when he got back, he would be finding out who he needed to contact. It came across to me kind of like a threat from NODA that if we don't go with them, then we wouldn't get the county money.
Right.
But how many years have we done it without county money anyway?
Right.
Um,
If you have an issue with that, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you
You
can contact
actually
me.
can't interrupt, really. You can't do that.
Okay, there are many reasons why I feel that it is a disadvantage to our residents, and this is in reference to NODA. First of all, we pick up our TFAP, which is a commodities, it's a quarterly food program that is available to all low-income people in the area. We would not be able to pick it up. We would have no way to deliver Focus Hope, which is a monthly food program that is available to all low-income seniors, and TFAP to residents that can't pick up their food boxes at the senior center. This would also eliminate the day trips, casinos, Henry Ford, Oakland County Farmers Market, which we just went to, the Red Barn Auction, Greenfield Village, Cider Mill, etc. So not just for fun, but there's cultural ones in there too. We would have no way to deliver Meals on Wheels if there wasn't a volunteer available, which sometimes that happens quite often. Shopping trips, I'm not sure, but we don't have a limit on a usual basis of the number of bags that someone can purchase at the store. But I don't know if NODA would have that. And I'm sure that they are not going to help unload their groceries and put them by their door. NODA is door to door. They will not take the passenger to the doctor's door. So if you go to like Clarkston Medical Group, they will get into the driveway, they will get you out, and they will take you to that outer door. But we have some clients that literally need to be taken into their doctor's office. NODA does not do that. We have patients that go to Genesis for infusions, level 11 for therapy, and NODA will not cross those lines.
County lines, you mean? County lines, you mean, right?
Yes. So we also have passengers that have appointments in Troy, Royal Oak, Clinton Township. NODA doesn't travel to these places. And we also have passengers that have appointments in Lapeer, and I'm not sure if they cover Lapeer or not. And I did get an answer today. We have one really regular person in Groveland Township. And I was so worried about her because she's deaf. And so most of the time I make her appointments. And I'm sure NODA's not going to do that. But I did talk to Groveland Township today, and they are transferring all their smart money to Brandon. Even though WODA is taking over there, we will still be able to pick her up, take her to her doctors without causing any rocking of the boat. From what I understand, NODA only waits about 10 to 15 minutes past the passenger scheduled pickup time from the doctors. Well, we all know it's not always, it's not always a timed thing. Then if the driver leaves, so they drop the person off and then they leave, and then they come back at the supposed pickup time. If they are not ready within 10 to 15 minutes, then they leave, and then the client has to literally call NODA again and schedule a pickup because they're sitting there waiting, and who knows how long they have to wait. And we have people on dialysis, people that get chemo treatments, and they've been sitting there for at least 3 hours on a life-saving machine, and they're tired and they're hungry, and they don't want to sit and wait for an hour, hour and a half, which is totally understandable. Dialysis patient may not stop bleeding, so that's going to take a little extra time. So on September 20th, Jason, Rosalind, and myself will be meeting with NODA with their intentions being that they want to take over our transportation responsibilities. This would also affect my drivers. Sorry. To have said that they would quit And the third one said she would work for NODA until she found another job. Above all else, this would displace many seniors. Seniors aren't keen with change, and this would alter who they would have as a driver. They may not be picked up from their appointment by the same driver as the one that dropped them off. Our drivers, passengers, and myself are like family. If NODA takes over, they would be breaking up the family, and we would be doing a disservice to our passengers and residents. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope that you take all these factors in account when you are called upon to make a final decision in regards to this matter. As always, should you have any questions, you can give me a call. My cell phone, I have copies of, if anybody wants one, of what I'm reading. There is an additional, I did make some phone calls today. Independence Senior Center in Clarkston, they are not going with NODA. OPC in Rochester, they are not going with NODA. Lake Orion Senior Center apparently never had transportation. I thought they did, but she said they didn't. I tried Auburn Hills, but I never got her contact back. I just hope that we look, I know money's very important, don't get me wrong there, but these area residents have lived here and they're important. And I did get told from someone in Groveland that they figured that, not right away, but they figured NODA and WODA would merge. And then what would happen is they'd still have their boundaries, and so say the boundary is M15. So if the person lived in Groveland Township and needed to go to some place in like Brandon or Oxford, they would bring them to 15, and then NODA would have to come and pick them up. I said, my seniors are never going to be able to do that. I said, that's ridiculous.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
But no, exactly. I said,
Hey,
what
I
if,
don't think any of us have any intention of getting rid of this.
I don't think so either. I don't,
Okay.
I feel like, are we talking about quitting these people? Quitting our
okay,
people?
That hasn't been a
good, 'cause I was
consideration.
just-
Okay.
I was
The
just really,
service you provide is far
They-
superior.
They keep
to what
soliciting
they're-
us, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
No, well, they did
and
the
we
same
keep-
thing to
we
me
keep
when I got
telling them
elected.
no,
Right.
and they're not taking no for an answer.
They solicited me for like a year,
She's too-
personally, and I'm like, I
Well,
don't.
they're gonna have to take no eventually, so.
Okay.
Good. Thank you very much for
Well, it seems to
listening.
me NODA stands for no one does anything.
Pretty much. But I mean, you can tell my drivers turned it down and they start at $20 an hour and next year's 21, but my driver said, it's our people.
Right.
Our people know us, our people, like I said, we're like family. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Faye.
Thank you for taking care of our seniors, Faye.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, that brings us into our trustee reports. We'll start down there with Kathy.
Okay, I just wanted to say that the Hadley-Oakwood intersection opened early, and so that was a big plus in my life because I live right there. And I like the dividers that were put in our packet this month. Those are very nice. And I just wanted everyone to know to remember that September Fest is early this year. It's on September 16th from 10 to 8 and September 17th from 9 to 3. And also, I was wondering if we can discuss as a board moving away from having a separate truth and taxation hearing, because MTA has been promoting for several years to include that with the budget hearing. And maybe we're getting to a point where we're ready to make that transition. So I was just wondering, maybe that's something that we can look at in the near future.
Well, we'll be talking about budgeting over the next few months.
So we had a retirement oversight committee meeting on August 17th, and we'll be discussing the committee's recommendations in item D. And that's all I have tonight.
Steve?
Today's September 11th, one of the most horrific days in my time. So it still gets me today, because I remember where I was at. I was in the academy, thought the life was going to change. It kind of did, but anyway, get off on that solemn subject. Planning Commission meeting met at Lake Louise, sewer subcommittee. Other than that, nothing really going on. Excited to go to September Fest, things like that. So, and fall's almost on us. That's it.
Thanks, Steve. Bob?
Like Steve said, September Fest is this coming weekend. So John sort of got thrown into this in the middle of the planning, but everything seems to be going really well. So just show up, have a good time. I'm glad you brought up September 11th, because I was going to. I remember being on the job when it happened, and it was pretty sobering. Nobody knew what was happening, what it would mean for us being actually on the job. So when you go to bed tonight, say a prayer for all those people who lost their lives either at the event or afterwards in the fight against terrorism, and say a prayer for all our first responders and our military that keep us safe to this day.
Thank you, Bob. Dana?
First, I want to welcome John. It's his first meeting, so go easy on him. But he's got some stuff coming up because our Parks and Rec subcommittee did meet, and the stuff we met about is coming up with changing of the part-time employee, where the money comes from. We need to get the concrete floor for the barn and the well repair at the Brandon Township Park. So we discussed all that at our meeting and welcomed John, and kind of Fred went over some stuff at the ending of it, of his final days. But he should be at September Fest this weekend, so if you're here, make sure you guys say hi and bye to Fred for one more time. I'm looking forward to September Fest too. And then, as Kathy mentioned, the Retirement Oversight Committee met. We did, item D, we'll be talking about the OPEB funding that we wanted to make a change on. We also met, in that meeting, we discussed the separation of the payments between the surplus and the employee funding, and Melissa did a great job, and Margaret, meeting back with Chief and I, and going over making sure the payments are going to be allocated and reconciled every year, so we don't have problems, and making sure the right payments are put into the regular funding versus the surplus funding. And that's all I had.
All right, thank you, Dana. That brings us to should be the treasurer. So
Sure.
Scott.
Taxes are due this Thursday, so taxes have been coming in hot and heavy the past week or so. It was really busy today. So make sure you get your taxes paid, and that's it. That's all I got.
Thank you, Scott.
I take it back. We also, as Steve said, the Lake Louise subcommittee, well, it's really the Lake Louise board met. And I know there was some discussion, and I saw the packet here, of having us approve that resolution, but it's really, I'll talk more about that when we get to it.
Is that on the? Is
It's
it
in
here?
the
It's in the packet. I just didn't
correspondence.
know if anybody had any questions about it, so.
Okay. All right.
There was a question of whether or not we needed another resolution for it, and I don't think we do.
Okay.
And especially, in case anybody didn't know, that particular project, if you will, is not a SAD.
Correct.
It falls under the Water Resources Commission, and so it's got its own set of rules. They don't have to have a petition every 5 years. It's a different beast.
Right.
So, okay, that's it.
Okay. Rosalind?
Good evening. Thank you all for attending the board meeting for Brandon Township. Absentee ballot applications went out on August 31st. On the top of the application, in the right-hand corner, there is a box to check if you would like to have a ballot mailed to you going forward. Prior to Proposition 222 that just passed, you would get an application for anytime there was an election in Brandon Township. And now that Prop 2 went through, you're not going to be receiving the application. You'll just have the ballot mailed directly to you. So if you do want the ballot mailed to you, check the top of the box. If you don't check that box. Melissa has been working really hard on the chart of accounts. She's put a lot of time into it. We're expecting that to be completed over the next month. And we did get a resolution for confirming the special assessment role for the Lake Louise Improvement Board. And if you are interested in working elections or election inspector, please stop by the clerk's office.
Thank you, Rob.
Question for you. With the application for absentee ballot, if you do not check that box, you do not get your absentee ballot, correct?
Correct.
What if you don't do anything, you just don't even send it back? Is that by default the
Nothing
same?
happens.
Nothing happens?
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
No ballot will be sent.
All right, that brings us to the supervisor's report. Just a couple things. See a little bit of Chief's thunder before he mentions it, but we did receive our fire department grant today for $20,000 for fire equipment. So Chief will find something to spend that on. I'm sure he's got a mind already. Yeah. So we have that. We did also get a grant reimbursement. You'll see a letter under the correspondence, but we were able to get some of our security camera reimbursed from MMRMA. I applied for a grant through there. So we got about $2,500 back from them. We did get a revenue sharing check as well for about $246,000. We did have our last and final township cleanup day this past Saturday. Worked out there. We had a pretty good turnout. So spent the day in the cold and then hot and a little rainy. But and we still have mosquito products available at the supervisor's office. If you haven't gotten your products already, please come get them. Any township resident per address can get 2 products. And then I'm just looking forward to September Fest as well. I'll be working the Mason's Breakfast on Saturday morning, and then I'll be bartending in the Lions Club beer tent both Friday and Saturday night as well, if anybody's coming down there. And that's it for tonight. Okay, that brings us right into our correspondence. You see the sewer subcommittee meeting minutes, the MMRMA grant award letter there, and then, as Scott mentioned, the Lake Louise Special Assessment Resolution. And that brings us into our citizens' comments, and that is on agenda items and limited to 3 minutes per person. So the first time is for agenda items. Does anybody have any comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. No discussion items tonight, and that brings us to our consent agenda. We have our regular meeting minutes of August 7th of 2023, regular bills in the amount of $15,798.54. Prepays in the amount of $657,068.78, and trustee timesheets in the amount of $1,130.
I'll make a motion to
Okay.
approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Steve. And we'll go ahead and take a roll call on that, please, unless there's any questions. Nope. Okay, roll call, please.
Blair. Yes. Broughton.
Yes.
DePalma.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Thurman.
Yes.
Unruh.
Yes.
Rumble.
Yes, motion carries. No unfinished business. That brings us right into our new business. The first item we have is a new hire for the Parks and Rec Department. With Brandy's pending departure, we posted the open position for the full-time Parks and Rec assistant, and that was posted in the Citizen. We did receive several applications. Once we reviewed, we ended up interviewing 2 of those candidates. It was myself, John, and Dana doing the interviewing, and we have the motion here to recommend hiring Lana as full-time Parks and Recreation assistant at $19.85 an hour. And it's McMahon, right? Yes. Yeah, Lana McMahon.
I'll make that motion. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that when I was mentioning what we did at our meeting, but
I'll second.
All right. Dina and Kathy, any questions on the new hire?
I just wanted to say, I think Luana is very qualified. I keep hearing from her father how she is a college graduate, and she has a extensive sports background, so that's all positive stuff.
All right. And so we have the motion. Can we get a roll call, please?
Broughton.
Yes.
DePalma.
yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Thurman.
Yes.
Unruh.
Yes.
Blair.
Yes.
Rumble.
Yes. Motion carries. All right. And then, I have this out of order. All right. And then we brings us to the millage rates. There is one change to the fire equipment and housing and operating. They're just changing, but the overall total mills are looking to stay the exact same as they are this year. And that's the 9.438 total mills compared to 9.438 last year.
What's the change?
They're just flipping.
They're flipping.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay. I thought you meant there was a change in addition to what was on
No.
here. Okay.
Nope.
Sorry.
So we're looking to have those millage rates approved and get these I say it wrong every time, L4029 submitted to the county because they are due in September.
I'll go ahead and make the
I have
motion
Thank you,
discussion.
Rosalind. Okay,
as presented.
I'll second it, but, okay, go ahead, Kathy.
I appreciate getting the proposed taxable value amounts. I did try to do this once, and I got really chewed out for not doing the budgeting before the truth and taxation went in paper.
We did it this way last year. We did this last year.
Well, last year we had issue with our accountant too, so.
Just doing the same thing we did last year.
Let's not look to the past, Kathy. Let's
Well,
look to the
okay,
future.
I'm
Let's not,
just-
let's not
I'm
worry
just
about Ron
saying.
being mad at you.
Yeah.
I was wondering when we are gonna have the budget workshops, I mean, because
We'll-
it's supposed to go
same
to
as last
the,
year. We'll start working on them in September and October, and then we'll approve it in
It's-
November.
by law, it's supposed to get to the township board by September 1st.
Since
see
when?
it.
We haven't done that in any year that I've been a supervisor or when you were a supervisor.
We didn't have the
No.
workshop, but I had it out, emailed.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we have the motion by Rosalind, supported by me. Any other questions? Okay, take a roll call, please.
De Palma,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Thurman,
Yes.
Unruh,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Broughton,
Yes.
Rumble.
Yes, motion carries. All right, that brings us to township official cell phones. This has come up several times in the past, and I've been exploring this, and Rosalind and I looked into it, well, I looked into it mostly, but we discussed it many times. I did speak with the township attorney, the auditor, and MTA about doing so, and they all agreed that not only should we do it, but it is legal to do. So we're looking to make the suggested motion to put money into the account to purchase 4 cell phones and to pay the monthly bills, and those will be through FirstNet, which is AT&T. That's about $47 a phone per month, and the phones are anywhere from $800 to like $1,500 a piece.
I have discussion.
Okay.
So you just went over the associated costs, that was part of it, and, so you said something about, the Parks and Rec director's
Yep.
cell phone and them, and he, submitting for reimbursement for his private phone. So I just wanted to give you some history. We used to have cell phones, but it was never for the supervisor, clerk, and treasurer. It was for the building director and the Parks and Rec director. And we have a cell phone policy. I don't know if you've read it. But the cell phones are supposed to be used for Brandon Township business. And so what happened was, we provided the cell phones, and then there were complaints because people didn't like carrying around 2 cell phones all the time, one for the township and one for private use. So that's kind of what pushed the Parks and Rec director into getting reimbursement on their own phone, is because of having to carry around 2 cell phones. And so that's what's in our policy. It's supposed to be for township business use. I don't know why, maybe you could elaborate on why.
Almost every township in Oakland County has
I
2
know.
cell phones, has a township cell phone, and it's been recommended by our attorney and MTA to do so.
Every
It's-
time I
it's-
go to a clerk conference, they all have 2 cell
Yeah,
phones.
Kathy,
It's- I'm
it-
like
I'll have
the
2
only
cell
one
phones.
that
Quite
doesn't,
frankly,
because one's
I
for
think
work
This
and
is a
one's
great
personal.
idea.
I know.
Let's just put it, you shouldn't be doing government, you got government business.
Shouldn't do anything on
You
your
shouldn't be
personal
doing your
cell phone.
personal, because if anybody FOIA's in your stuff, you don't want that to separate between the two. This is a
Truly,
great
it's a
idea.
FOIA issue, Kathy. Otherwise, it wouldn't
It
matter.
wouldn't matter. This
It's
is a
FOIA
this is a
issue.
good idea.
I do think it might not be a bad idea. I know, do we want to put the senior center at some time under there too? I'm not sure. Maybe that's something we could look at. If they are interested, but it was just a thought.
I don't know what the, I mean, we got cell phones toward the end of my career because of business contacts, and you were given across things that could be FOIA. That's the big thing here.
Yeah.
That's what you're really looking at, because you don't want your personal, if you have to turn on your cell phone, you got all
Sure.
your personal stuff in there. That's what
Right.
we're looking at.
And that's why I don't have township email.
I
on
know,
my cell
I
phone.
hear you. So
I don't either.
I'd like to make a motion here, if I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on for
Oh,
a
sorry.
second. That's right. Yeah, I don't see carrying 2 cell phones as a big deal. I mean, I did it for years. Chief, do you have a cell phone for the
That was
for the
my
township?
question.
You do?
Okay.
What, is it the same carrier that they're suggesting? Oh, okay, all right.
Okay, that was my question, because the chief, I was like, wait, is chief being left out? He's already had one, okay. And I know
Thank you.
Lieutenant would have his through
Oakland
Oakland
County.
County, so that won't matter. And what about our, Jason, the other Jason? Our
He
building
doesn't
ins-
want one.
He doesn't want one, okay. I wasn't sure, being building inspector and fire marshal, if you needed one.
Does he
Okay.
have a phone through the fire department? Jason?
He does not.
He does not, okay.
He doesn't want one.
Sorry,
Can't say I
didn't mean to
blame
bring
him.
that up, I was just trying to make sure we covered all the.
We asked him.
Okay.
And fanny packs are coming back in fashion. So
Oh, I'm so happy.
Keep 2 in your fanny pack.
So, I mean, we got that covered. The 2 cell phone thing, bam.
Right.
So I have another question.
Okay.
Will the cell phone numbers be put on our website for people to get a hold of you on those numbers, or how does all that work? So people
It's
know
more for the township business, not for residents to call you.
regarding township business?
They still have our email.
They still have our email and they still have our township phone numbers.
It's just for you to contact?
Communicate with road commission, with other supervisors, with our auditor, with our CPA, with everybody.
Okay, so that's to use when you're out of the office?
Well, or if
Because
I'm in
in
the
the
office and it
office you
rings,
have a
I'm gonna
phone.
ask it.
I mean, in the office, you have a phone.
If road commission calls me when I'm in the office on my cell phone, I'm gonna answer it.
Oh, yeah.
So, yes.
I'm sorry, Stu.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay, I didn't know.
Did
I
anyone
can make a
second
motion.
this?
No, he hasn't made it yet.
Oh, I thought
I'm
you said
trying,
you wanted.
trying. Move $8,000 into 101-265-920.000. Utilities phones from carry forward and purchase 4 cell phones through First Net Service to pay the bills for the remainder of 2023 to be paid from 101-265-920.000 utilities/phones.
Support.
I do have one more question.
Uh-huh.
If there is a cell phone policy out there, maybe we need to read it to see if it needs to be updated then after this passes.
We're gonna look at a lot of stuff, actually. Actually, Scott and I were talking about that
Okay.
today. There's quite a few things that need to be,
Well, I just figured that got brought up. We better look at that if we're doing this part, so, thank you.
yep. Okay, can we get a roll call, please?
Marshall,
Yes.
Thurman,
Yes.
Unruh,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Broughton,
Yes.
De Palma,
Yes.
Rumble.
Yes. Motion carries. And then that brings us to our 2024 OPEB funding. As Dana and Kathy have already mentioned, the Retirement Oversight Committee is recommending that we make no payment toward OPEB in 2024. And then we recommend too that the committee will review this recommendation on a yearly basis.
I'll make this
Okay,
motion.
the payment is not that we don't make a payment to other post-employment benefits. It's that we're not making an additional payment to the retiree healthcare funding vehicle.
Which is OPEB.
No, it's not OPEB. It's part of OPEB, because OPEB also includes the retiree benefits. So if you look at page 9 on
Well, this
your-
is what I wrote on my notes of what was said at the meeting.
I know, but that's not what we were talking about. We were talking about the additional payment to our retiree healthcare funding vehicle. The fire department had been contributing $42,000. We had been contributing $25,000 to.
Yeah, didn't we take that off last year? And this was
Yeah,
the additional
for the
stuff?
retiree, yeah, and that's what this recommendation is for. It's not, because if you say you're not going to make any payments to OPEB, then you're not going to be putting, and we're still going to do pay as you
Just
go.
wrote down what you guys said.
Right.
So if you want to change it, change it
Okay.
in the motion.
Because we still are going to do pay as you go, which means that the township is still going to pay for retiree health care, which is part of OPEB.
Right, because they send us bills for that. Can I ask, does somebody have, maybe Dana, can you give me I don't know, a 1-minute answer to why are we not going to make any additional payments to the healthcare funding?
Because with the amount of interest that we're making on it and the amount of funding that we are at, and we're doing pay-as-you-go, it is, I don't remember what percent were we at funded? Like
Over 80%.
I was
Like
gonna say
81?
81,
I think it was
82%
80.
were funded. And as we do pay-as-you-go, we're not taking away from the fund and the
We're
amount
just
of
breaking
interest.
even, right?
Pardon me?
We're just breaking even.
No, well,
No.
our payments are paying 100% of the retirement oversight, or the OPEB retirement healthcare funding. And our interest makes more than what our,
Contribution was.
Sure.
our ARC, our annual required contribution. Our interest makes more than ARC as it is, so we
Yes.
don't need to make, our interest makes more than our ARC, almost
Sure.
like double or triple our ARC. So there's no extra payment that we're required to make, and we just feel that funds could be used better elsewhere in the township right now because we're so high funded.
Okay, so I guess I'm speaking towards what I saw in Groveland is they're 100% funded, and once they get to that point, especially with interest rates, it's self-funding into perpetuity, assuming a certain interest rate assumptions, if you will. And why not? Because I can tell you that these government programs, they're getting a lot higher interest than what we're getting on our money, even when I've moved it over into, for instance, Michigan class. I'm still only getting, 5.2%, whereas whatever they're using, they're probably more in the 7 to 12% range, right?
I'm not sure what rates they're at and what rates the other stuff is at. All I know is that our interest is building enough of our ARC, and we are 80-some% funded, and we are not withdrawing from it. I could see if we were taking out every year and using that fund where, okay, this year now if we decided to start not doing pay-as-you-go, and we decided to start using the fund, then with interest, then we would also, as interest builds, we would also have to look at going back to adding money and doing a payment. And that's why we said we review it every year. We're not asking to do this, we're not asking for a point blank. That's why it's, okay, let's do it this year. Let's see what our funding is next year. If next year our funding's at 85%, then we made a good decision because we're up now to 85%. If next year our funding is down to, say, 70, I mean, God forbid it is, but if it was, then yeah, we would need to reassess. And that's why we said we would reassess every year in this.
Okay, and that's
motion.
the committee's purview. I'm just, maybe for next year, just consider, we do have some excess funds this year in the township, and I think that's a great way. I'm going to agree with whatever is in this motion, but I think it's a good idea to try to, I don't know, I'd like to get to 100% funded on that.
Well, and that's why we brought this motion, but it's up to the board to vote. Being on the Retirement Oversight Committee, I do agree with this. If our interest wasn't meeting our ARC so much, like double, triple, I wouldn't agree with this as much. And if we were drawing from it, I wouldn't agree with it.
Okay.
But that's just my opinion. There's 7 of us to
No,
vote, but that's
no,
why we
you guys
brought it.
are-
I don't know if
you're
Chief
in the
wants to
room.
add anything.
The
Only one
fund
thing
is
that I'd
still
add to
building.
that, Scott, is, Dana's covered all that very well.
Mm-hmm.
And the key is that we are still paying for retiree healthcare
Correct.
out of our budgets.
Mhm.
And this is to make sure that there is some kind of financial, bucket down the road in case we cannot continue to pay out of our budget. So all this is for lack of a better term, is a savings account for down the road.
Right, and that's what I'm just saying. I'm recommending put more in, but we're just saying we're not going to do it at all.
If we're gonna
And-
put more in, I'd rather see us put more into the retirement pension program.
Fair
'Cause that's
enough.
less-
Either
that's-
one, either
that's less
one,
fun- That is less funded.
Yes.
We did look at that, and that is
Yeah.
less funded, so.
either one. Well, okay, hopefully that'll come up down the road then.
And the caveat for the retiree healthcare funding vehicle is the money that we use there can only be used for retiree health.
Right.
Correct.
Fair enough.
I'd like to make the motion.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you wanna change the wording to it, I'll let you make the motion, because I had said I'd make the motion, so I withdraw mine, that I said, if anyone wrote that down.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to not make any additional payment to the retiree healthcare funding vehicle in 2024. This recommendation will be reviewed yearly by the Retirement Oversight Committee.
Okay, I'll second that. All right, can we get a roll call on that, please?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear who seconded it.
I did.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thurman,
Yes.
Unruh,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Broughton,
Yes.
De Palma,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Rumble.
Yes. All right, that brings us to the second reading of the ordinance for offenses against public morals. So the motion is to adopt for second reading offenses against public morals, Article 7, Division 2, Section 28, 342, Code of Ordinances for the Charter Township of Brandon as presented. So
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Kathy.
Second.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions? All right, can we get a roll call, please?
Unruh,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Broughton,
Yes.
De Palma,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Thurman,
Yes.
Rumble.
Yes, motion carries. And then we have our second of the second readings, and this one is to adopt for second reading indecent behavior, Chapter 28, Article 7, Sections 28-316, 28-317, and 28-319, Code of Ordinances for the Charter Township of Brandon as presented.
I make that motion.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll second.
Thank you, Kathy. And roll call, please.
Blair,
Yes.
Broughton,
Yes.
De Palma,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Thurman,
Yes.
Unruh,
Yes.
Rumble.
Yes, motion carries. All right, John, you want to come up for the next three? We have the Parks and Rec motions here.
All right. So we have three motions. The first is for the part-time employee budget account change. Our subcommittee met on August 17th to discuss the move of the part-time recreational coordinator from the program fund 508-117 702.000 to the Township General Fund 101-508-702-000. The employee would continue to work an average of 25 hours per week. The reason for the change is to allocate those program funds back into programs. When the subcommittee met, it voted unanimously recommended this proposal to the Board of Trustees.
And this would be effective January of 2024, so we can budget for it.
Yes.
I'll make that motion to pay the part-time recreation coordinator position out of 101-508-702.000, beginning January 1st, 2024.
Second.
Ooh.
I think Roslyn got you there, Scott.
I don't think so. I'm gonna go the
Hey,
tape on that
that's
one.
my left side. They can hear better on that
Tape
side.
on that one.
All right,
I
any
have
questions?
comments.
Yeah.
So Fred had been complaining about this for many years, that he wanted to do this. So it's nice that we are, but I just wanted to make sure that the Parks and Rec subcommittee looked to see that there were enough funds that we would be able to do that, or are we taking it out of carry forward, or where are the funds coming from?
Well, it's not
From our
starting until
budget?
next year, so we're gonna
I know.
budget
We're
it
gonna
next
budget for
year,
it,
so.
like we always do with all of our money?
And there's always,
Well, yeah, but
well, typically, there's extra funds that then go to carry forward at the end of the year, so we'll just have less go to carry forward out of the Fund 101.
okay, so
So there's nothing need to take out of
Yeah.
carry forward.
All right, any other
that was
questions?
my concern.
Okay, can we get a roll call, please?
Broughton,
Yes.
De Palma,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Thurman,
Yes.
Unruh,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Rumble.
Yes. Motion carries.
And so that's come a long way since I was first trustee here, because if I recall correctly, even at that time, we were fighting just to get part of who was Kara's position out of 508,
it's changed.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so
Fred's
it's,
been asking for it for a long time, and that was
Right.
like one of the very first things he said to John, you gotta try it now.
well, slowly but surely, it's coming along.
Yeah, it's working.
John, before you do this, so the next one's for the concrete floor in the pole barn. Rosalind and I were talking with Melissa, and we're gonna, instead of it coming out of utilities,
Right.
we're gonna want it to come out of equipment. So the number will be 101-732-977-000 instead of the number you see on your motion.
Okay.
And then there was a typo as well down here to moving the money from 208,000,004. It should be 258, not 285. So that was corrected.
Wait.
Okay.
Just the last
In the
three
motion.
digits.
Yep.
Just the last.
285
three
should
Oh,
be
the last, I
258.
thought you meant at the beginning, because the beginning, I'm like, the beginning
Nope.
is 258. I see it now.
Yep.
Um,
Okay.
and so it's moving from utilities to what?
Equipment,
And why is that?
because that's where all the pole barn money has come out of.
Okay, thank you for the
Yep.
answer.
Not that's where we keep our equipment.
Right. And where we keep
That
our
works,
equipment.
I just wanted to,
Kathy?
Yes, I have a question on the fund balance in,
35,000,
there's 35,000 and 258.
roughly 35,000.
Okay, because just to let you know, 25,000 of that is designated for.
We can
the-
use that for anything. We've already looked into it. We can use it for anything in the park.
Well, when we got the money from Enbridge,
don't know where it came from.
it was designated for the concession stand.
It was designated for park maintenance, according to Fred.
Well, there should be a record somewhere of it.
Well, it's being used in the park.
I got a question on the flooring,
Yep.
and I know I read it somewhere. Something having to do with like a soft support. Is this gonna have rebar in it so you can actually drive vehicles into it for your equipment?
Well, yeah, it'd have the lawnmower and the tractor in there.
Yeah.
Well, but those aren't really heavy pieces of equipment.
I don't know the answer to
It's,
that. Would there be rebar?
I've
Are you
got the
looking
quote
for
here.
storage?
It's a slab with fiber strength mix added.
That's the fiber strength. I've never heard of that before.
You want me to Google it?
Yeah.
Unless
That's
it's
a good-
something substantial as far as
But, you know,
reinforcement.
it's Jason,
It's an additive.
Jason Wilton is actually contracting to
Right.
do this, and he's a building guy, and so
Yeah,
he would
I
know
would think.
Yeah, it meets
what
all
it
the code.
needs.
Chief?
About the fiber material, the fiber strength mix is like fiberglass that's mixed into the cement that gives it, makes it stronger.
Okay, and that's sufficient to take the weight of vehicles,
I
like a
cannot-
rebar would be?
I cannot answer that, and Jason unfortunately is at another meeting at the village.
Okay.
Otherwise, he'd be able to answer that.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Well, just make a note to ask Jason.
Yeah.
I was wondering if we got 3 quotes for this because it's over $7,500.
I think that was how it was explained. Was that because it was part of the other, when
think
we
it's the-
originally bought the building with the can money? Had something to do with that?
Oh, it's on the back, sorry.
The $7,500, that's not what it is, it's 20,000. 7,500 is how much we can spend without going to the
20,000 is for
board.
sealed bids.
I understand that. 7,500 is what I can spend without coming to the board. It doesn't, it's,
And the quote is for more than that, goes over that. So
that's
then
why I
we're-
brought it to the board, so the board can approve the quote.
But we're supposed to bring 3
Oh, that's not my understanding of
bids.
that.
And then the other thing too is we need to disclose to the public that Wilton is our building official.
Okay, why didn't we do that to all the other work he's done? Why is that an issue for you now?
I'm just going off what our policy says, Jason.
Well, I'm asking you why that's an issue now when it wasn't for
It
the
wa-
last
it
3
was
things that he
before.
did.
Well, it should have been.
Okay, well, it wasn't then.
But, yeah, the policy says we're supposed to bring 3 quotes.
Okay, well, if you don't want to do concrete, then vote no. I'll make the motion to approve concrete installation at a cost of $8,250 for the park pole barn, moving money from 258,000,004, 258 committed, to 101,732,977,000 equipment to pay for the concrete.
second.
Thank you. All right, can we get a roll call, please?
DePalma,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Thurman,
No, only because we're not following policy.
Monroe,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Broughton,
Yes.
Rumble.
Yes, motion carries. All right, and that brings us to the last one, John, go ahead.
Yeah, so the park subcommittee, we met on August 17th, 2023, to discuss the needed repair of the well at the Brandon Township Community Park. The worst-case scenario for the repair would be $6,604.24. Work to be done by Mike Lalone, Inc., with funds taken from 258-000-004 285 committed, then paid through 101-732-920.000 utilities. The Park Subcommittee unanimously approved the move forward on the repair by asking to take this proposal to the trustees.
I just have to make
The-
one comment for that first, the committed. Again, we're going to change the last three of those account numbers to the 258.
I'm sorry.
That's what that's why I was just comparing him, like, wait, isn't it supposed to be 258 too? Okay.
Yes.
Just to note that the well did get struck by lightning like 3 years ago.
Yes.
And so we've been living on borrowed time, so we can kind of be grateful that we didn't have to do it 3 years ago, because
Yeah, we
You
should
know,
have really, did we not try to see insurance-wise why that wouldn't be covered?
I don't know. I don't know about 3 years ago.
Again, it's the past, I was just curious. I have to concede, I'm gonna be like Kathy though on this one, because when I was reviewing this, why didn't we get other quotes? For instance, there's a couple of other well drillers local to the area that,
So why we didn't is Lalone is the people who installed it. They've
Correct.
maintained it the
Oh.
entire time that we've had it, and they've
okay,
made all
fair enough.
repairs, and they know
That's all I need
everything
to
about
know.
it.
And I think it's a little late to probably go back on insurance if it
Oh,
was
yeah.
3 years ago.
Oh, you know, I
But
was asking
gonna
at the
mention
time
it,
why we
yeah.
didn't do it.
I'm not sure.
I'm seeing this more as an emergency
Mhm.
type of repair.
Yeah, basically, it's been down. Luckily, we've had a really wet August, because if not, we would have had to do something more of an emergency, because it was,
Right.
basically, it's been down since, it was intermittent, like in July, and then it just went.
We'd have to
kaput.
have Dave's pumper trucks come out there and water our
Pump it.
grass for us.
Yeah.
So I'll make the motion to approve the well repairs at the cost not to exceed $6,664.25 for Brandon Township Community Park, moving money from 258-000-004.258 committed to the 101-732-920.000 utilities to pay for said repairs.
Second.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Steve. Any more questions? All right, can we get a roll call, please?
Marshall,
Yes.
Thurman,
Yes.
Unruh,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Broughton,
Yes.
DePalma,
Yes.
Rumble.
Yes. Motion carries. All right, that brings us to the next item. Fred brought this to me in his return. I told him if he wanted to bring a motion to the board, he could. But he had 33 hours of vacation that wasn't paid out pursuant to our policies, and he wanted to know if we would approve paying out for those additional 33 hours. I told him he could bring it to the board, and that's all I said. So that's why this is in here.
And I came in, not wanting to surprise anyone, I spoke to Jason today. We have an employee handbook for a reason, and if we don't stick with it, then anybody else that wants to do this are gonna say, why can't you do it for me? You did it for so-and-so. And I really think we need to stick to the employee handbook on these type of issues. This was a situation where, based on this email, this isn't where we're not paying someone for hours, at their retirement for this year. They're wanting to roll over hours from last year and then claim they didn't use them, and so we should pay them for it. If this was an issue, this should have been brought up in January, but even then I would have the same opinion, is that we have an employee handbook for a reason with rules in there of how we handle these things. And if we sway from it, then there's no going back. This is my opinion.
He put in here that in the past the board has approved this. I don't know who that was. Kathy, do you recall doing that?
I think
before?
it was Sue.
What happened is, because I was a trustee at the time, it was a while ago, and she claimed towards the end of the year that she was so busy that she couldn't take those hours, and therefore we rolled them over to the next year, and then she did take them. In this case, this was a long-term thing where I don't know why Fred couldn't take his hours
And that
last year.
That was kind of my question, is that he was so busy with the transfer of the department and that he couldn't get the vacation time in, the 33 hours of vacation time. I wasn't.
There was no
there.
I know he
33
took-
hours
he-
to get in because nobody ever approved it.
Well, no, he didn't take 33 hours of his
There
vacation
wasn't-
time last year.
Last
That he-
year.
Well, wasn't
Yeah.
that carryover from the year before, though?
Yeah, I have
Right,
no
I
idea.
think so.
It might have
It could have
been,
been.
but
yeah.
I was just, I don't know what his work, not being here.
Yeah, I
don't
know he
what
did
his-
take some vacations in the last month, but the last 2 weeks he didn't, so he could be here with John for 2 weeks, but.
Right,
So
so
y-
I don't know, I mean, if we're putting pressure on him to help John out and not, so he
But that's not the
wasn't taking
question. The
vacation.
question was, we never approved rolling those hours over from last year.
He should have only, so in 2022, he's saying he had 33.5, I just want to make sure. He had 33.5 in 2022, and usually, per our policy, you only carry over 5. So at that time, he would have been now at 28.5. So technically, he would have had 5 carryover. So it's 28.5 that it sounds like he's asking extra for.
I'm okay with the 5.
If you read this,
know.
it said he had 73.5
Yeah, he's
hours.
asking for 33 and a half, because only 40
And
could
so he
carry over
can-
into
So
23.
he had 73 point,
So he can move 40 over.
you had
but-
73.5 hours of vacation time. Oh, so when he left, he still had 73 hours of vacation that he didn't use?
Yeah.
Well,
Oh.
'Cause
He's
he-
only asking for 33.5 of it to be,
Well, no, because he would already been paid off on the 40.
gotcha.
Paid out, I mean, not off. Paid
Okay,
out.
so he was paid off on the 40 of the 73.5, 33.5 is when, okay. I was just trying to put the math together and understand where it's coming from.
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
Fred was a dedicated employee, and his heart was so much into this job that I believe he just didn't take his vacation hours, and the money was due to him. So I'm going to make a motion to approve an additional 33.5 hours of vacation time be carried over on Fred Waybrandt's anniversary date of 8/18/23.
not carried out, paid out, because he's asking for a check for those hours, because he's retired now, so that he's not carrying hours over to this year, or next
Well, I
year.
carried him over on 8/18.
Okay,
And then he'll want it paid out because he's not here. So,
Support.
okay. Any other questions? All right, can we get a roll call, please?
Thurman,
yes.
Unruh,
No.
Blair,
No.
Broughton,
No.
De Palma,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Rumble.
Yes. Motion carries. All right, and that brings us into the fire department items, I believe. Yes, chief?
Good evening. Station 2 needs a new roof. That was the roof that was put on when we did the addition out there in the early 2000s. It's starting to show its age. The shingles starting to fail. We did get 3 quotes. The way we're looking at it is we're going to do labor as one and materials as separate, because we can get a better deal on the materials. Because usually contractors will buy the materials and there's a markup for them. So we're able to get the materials at a reduced rate, and we can get the labor. You have that in front of you. The lowest rate for the labor is Wilton Building for 19.9. The highest was R.H. Bennett for 22.3. And then the 2 bids for materials are Golf Eagle Supply and Wimsat Building Materials, Wimsat being the lowest at 13,348. The roof's approximately 8,000 square feet, just as rough numbers. So, but
I'll make the suggested motion to approve the roof replacement for station number 2 by Wilton Building Company for labor for the amount of $19,900 and Wimsat Building Supplies for materials for the amount of $13,348 for a total amount of $33,248 from line item 205-265-975.200.
I'll second.
All right, any other questions? All right, roll call, please.
Unruh,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Broughton,
Yes.
De Palma,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Thurman,
Yes.
Rumble.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you. The next one, before I ask what this is or present, you had brought up 9/11, and 9/11 for me was the first day of my paramedic class. So, I don't know, it's kind of fitting that now I am asking for the 2 of the 3 firefighters that we hired a little over a year and a half ago to receive, one, congratulations that they have received their paramedic license and they have completed all of the field training that's required of them, and they are ready to be on their own, which is great. They completed all that mid last month, and I'm asking to move them up from firefighter EMTs to engineer medics, and at the rate of $21.19 to be effective September 4th. And they would be eligible for a raise on January 2024. And those 2 individuals are firefighter EMT Tim MacArthur, who is here with his wife, Carrie, and firefighter EMT Jeff Green.
I'll go ahead.
I have a question. It says the fire authority has met and made the following recommendations. I didn't think we had a fire authority anymore.
We do.
We do, we do.
It's me and
They
Brian.
just kicked somebody off.
Village manager.
Oh, you and Ryan, okay.
Yeah, so if their agreement was the village manager and the the township supervisor.
All right.
I have
I
one
li-
question.
Yep.
Oh, no, go ahead, Kathy.
I was just going to make the motion.
Oh, no, I did have a question. Can we backdate it to September 4th? Because today's the 11th.
Yes,
Okay, I wasn't sure if we could do that.
yep.
Okay.
And that's the beginning of the payroll cycle.
Payroll.
Okay, that's
So.
fine.
Okay. I'll make motion to move firefighter EMT Tim MacArthur and firefighter EMT Jeff Green to the engineer medic positions at the 3rd step of the engineer medic hourly wage scale of $21.19 effective September 4th, 2023.
I'll
Support.
second.
Who was it?
Who'd you give it to?
I didn't say anybody yet. I don't know.
You don't know. You
Who
can't
wants it?
decide.
All right,
You can have it,
all
Dana.
right,
that's
Dana
fine.
it is.
Thanks, Rosalind.
You're
I'll give
welcome.
it to you next time.
Not a problem.
Okay, roll call, please.
Blair,
Yes.
Broughton,
Yes.
De Palma,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes, and congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, and
Yes, congratulations.
Did we finish the roll call?
Are
we done?
No.
I feel like I missed somebody.
Yeah, we're not done.
Wait a minute, did you say?
Thurman, yeah,
Yes.
Unruh,
Oh, wait. Is me now? Yeah.
Yes.
Rumble,
Yes, motion carries. That
I
brings
knew
us
we were
to the
clapping.
smart contract.
Congratulations.
Rosalind?
Okay, so in front of you, you have a smart contract, kind of like we discussed earlier in the meeting. This is just for us to receive those credits. We get 4 quarterly credits. And so this is what the motion is in front of you.
The lady who was here, she was here from this smart group.
Correct.
And you guys were asking what the new plan was for next year for that, so then we could know what's happening for next year compared to what NODA tries to do, even though we know we probably
My
won't
question
with
was the
NODA.
exact one Scott
Right,
already asked.
okay, now I'm understanding where I wasn't,
And they've had, Smart's
There's
kind of
just-
had some
because-
turnover.
yeah, well, and then NODA, isn't NODA part of SMART, or they use SMART, or no?
No.
NODA's
I
just
think
totally
they're
different?
It's a
separate.
private company.
It's a private company.
Just,
okay.
it stands for North Oakland Transportation Association. It's a big group like Orion and Oxford. That's who they use.
Okay,
And now there's going to be this new WODA that's going to be Groveland and Holly and
Rose.
right? Is that
Rose.
correct? And Rose.
okay.
And our people are much better off doing what we're doing versus
Oh,
using
SMART,
those
and then
services.
SMART is what the whole millage thing was on, that we pay for too, into.
But that's a
Okay.
that's
Well,
a
we get
different
these
beast
credits
than
and we
this.
pay the difference.
We use the credits and we pay the difference, okay.
Yep.
I was just,
This
there's
year
so
we
much
get a
different
reimbursement
things,
for some of
right,
the
but that's why
difference.
we're wondering if we're gonna have more coming up from the whole millage thing that has nothing to do with NODA or WODA. That's all separate, right?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, the millage, okay. It's too many different things going on.
It's Noda, Woda, Smart.
There's a few other ones too.
A few things going on.
Did somebody make that motion already? I thought I.
No.
No.
No, but I'll
Was it-
make the motion
okay.
to have the clerk sign the Smart Municipal Credit and Community Credit Contract for fiscal year 2024 and send the completed letter to Smart before October 13th, 2023.
Second.
Oh,
Well, he was
that was
faster.
Steve. He got you on that one.
I was in between the
Yeah,
3 and
yeah.
the period.
All right, can we get a roll call,
I didn't
please?
say period.
DePalma,
Yes.
Marshall,
Yes.
Thurman,
Yes.
Unruh,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Broughton,
Yes.
Rumble.
Yes, motion carries. And that brings us to the last item on our agenda.
Okay, so in front of you, you have an application for termination of a farmland development rights agreement. A resident has submitted, the Cooks have submitted the attached application for termination of a farmland development rights agreement. The property listed is no longer economically used as farmland. The clerk's office, we've consulted with Stuart with this, and he drafted us a resolution to send to the state of Michigan, if the board was to approve the termination for the farmland.
I have a question. I'm sorry, Kathy.
Go ahead. I was just gonna make the motion.
I was talking to Lori Cook 2 days ago. I don't understand the need for this. They didn't have
Because
to
it's
do anything-
required by the application to go to the township board.
But they didn't have to do anything at all to actually put it as farmland?
I have no idea. I wasn't part of that.
They probably
But
did.
Yeah,
I'm
'cause
sure
that's
they
what
did.
She said we didn't have to do anything at all.
Well, the application says right on it, it has to go to the local governing body.
Okay,
When this been an
I
application?
told her that on the phone.
Like, been a long time ago before all of us even, right?
Yeah, it's been farmland for a long time.
For longer than, right?
Lori does have a copy of this resolution too.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the application for termination of a farmland development rights agreement and resolution approving the application for termination of a farmland development rights agreement, and allow the clerk to sign the approval form and forward to the state agency.
All right, I'll second that. All right, can we get a roll call on that, please?
Marshall,
yes.
Thurman,
Yes.
Unruh,
Yes.
Blair,
Yes.
Broughton,
Yes.
DePalma,
Yes.
Rumble.
Yes. Motion carries. All right, and then that brings us to citizens' comments on anything. Are there any citizens who would like to speak? Okay,
Just so everybody knows, don't forget, Friday night, square dance in front of the mill is for the 175th. That's one of the celebrations, and there's all kinds of things happening on Saturday for the 175th too. A nickel grab and High Nama's and beer contest, and so.
Steve, you have my first dance, okay?
all right.
So,
Lucky you,
it starts
Steve.
at 5, I believe. Or is it 7? No, I don't know. I think it's 7 to 9. I
Okay,
don't know, I'm down there from 4 to 9.
all right, thank you. Any other residents? Yep, Dave?
I just wanted to, do I have to identify myself again?
Yeah.
Dave
Really?
Wilson, 3635 Lakeview. I just wanted to come before the board and talk about a proposal that we're working on with the school. And this is just an informational thing. Jason and I have had some conversation about it, but again, just wanted to make sure the whole board knew what we were doing. Because if it works out, we'll be coming back to the board for approval of this proposal. And basically what we're doing is working with the school to get them to repurpose some old tennis courts that are dilapidated and anyways, long story short, there's about $500,000 worth of infrastructure there that we're trying to preserve. And how it's a win-win for everybody. The township, I think you have plans out at the Brandon Township Community Park to eventually do some pickleball courts over there, but they would have to start from scratch. So some of the infrastructure that we're talking about would have to be purchased at that time. And if you had to start from scratch, it'd be about $900,000 to $1 million right now in today's dollars to do a a number of pickleball courts that we're talking about doing. So again, what we're trying to do is to get the school to allow us, and we formed an LLC that we're also pursuing a 501c for right now, to allow us to work with them and repurpose these courts. And if we're successful, we would like then the Parks and Rec Department to take over operation of these courts as part of the park system. And therefore, again, we would not have to do those courts at the Brandon Township Community Park. So there'd be a cost avoidance for the township in this. And again, that would then operate these courts like any other park. So again, it's all in the works. It all is dependent on whether or not the school will see our proposal as a viable thing and work with us and do it. And we don't know the answer to that yet, but if we're successful, then we'll be coming back to the township here and asking him to take over. And this would be maybe on a lease or a quitclaim deed that the township would then have this piece of property and operate it like a park.
How receptive do you think they are to your proposal?
Well, it's like a sine wave, right?
Depends
Do
on
you
the
have a
day.
meeting set with them yet or anything?
We've met, I personally have been to the board 3 times and twice invited back, so
Okay.
they are now talking with their contractor, and it all has to do with the renovations there at Harvey Swanson and so forth. So it's a complicated thing
Right.
that I'm sure you don't want to get into right now.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
We used to have, run our tennis program out there on those courts. I don't think we do anymore. Are we at the high school now?
I believe so. I don't
Yeah.
think we, yeah.
Those courts aren't used for
Yeah, they don't
like
use it
anything.
for
So
anything.
we'd be at
'cause
the
they're
high
they're in
school.
pretty
No,
rough
and-
shape.
And
I
they're
think.
really in sad shape.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
All right,
Thank you,
Thanks.
Dave.
Thank you.
Any other residents? Okay. All right, not seeing any additional board comments. Kathy?
See you at Septemberfest.
All right, Steve?
No, sir.
Bob?
See you at Septemberfest on the main stage, 5:30.
All right.
Saturday.
Saturday, yeah, thank you. And again, take some time and say a prayer for all those who've given their lives for us and who have put their lives on the line.
Thank you. Dana?
Yes. Basically, second
Ditto.
ditto. Bob here.
All right, thank you. Scott?
This is something really simple. If you like these, you got to turn them back in because you're not getting another
You're gonna
set.
get another
Yeah.
Rosalind? Okay, and I don't have any additional comments tonight. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Bob. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Who'd we give these to?